Hello, welcome back to my High Plains Life. I'm Danielle, your host, and it is March 12th? Sure, Tuesday, March 12th. It's been a while. I had some things I wanted to finish to show you first, and then time kept slipping away from me. So, I have lots of things to show you and a bunch to talk about. So, very exciting. I have some good news today and some horrible, make me cry kind of news today. So let's start with the good stuff, why don't we? For on my needles, I have several FOs. And this is, sorry Mom, I haven't mailed it yet because I was waiting to podcast so I could show it. So when I said 2 weeks ago it'd be in the mail, I just stretched the truth a bit. So this is my etched Rio wrap. So this is done out of Plymouth Yarns Estilo, which is merino silk. Gorgeous. It blocked out beautifully. The light is bad. It's this oatmeal color. After a friend reminded me, not only do I have blocking mats and pins, I have blocking wires, and that makes edges straight. So blocked out beautifully, seamed along the top. So this is hard to show, but it's seamed along there. Can't even tell. Love it. I do not mind mattress stitch. It's like magic. Zip. So the finishing of things doesn't bother me. And then this just slips over your head. So it's very easy to wear, Mom. You just throw it on and let it drape, which it does lovely because of the silk content. So this will still be great in Phoenix on cooler evenings, even though it's heading into March. So now it'll go in the mail, Mom. Promise. So there's that. And I tried to use it all, but I still have a good 2/3 of a skein. The etched Rio wrap that I made for myself, I was down to playing chicken the last few yards. And so I assumed this would be similar because it was similar yardage, but I have extras. Okay, but that's done. Sorry, it fell off my chair. I have another project that's done. This made me happy, and then it made me cry. So, this is my Runa by Gudrun Johnston. It is out of Malabrigo Rios in the lettuce colorway. Look at my hood. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. I love the seed stitch. I love this flying wing pattern. I love the hood. I do wish people would have shown more photos or better photos in their project pages on Ravelry, because several people in their notes said they did a 3 needle bind off instead of the bias bind off, and I was just curious as to why. They didn't say why. They didn't show close-up photos of, and this is how it turned out differently. So I did the slope bias bind off. There is kind of a little at the tip of the hood, but other than that, you can't really tell. Can't see where I did my bind off and then seamed it together. So, hood. Picked up, did my ribbing, around for my button band, and I do have the button picked, but it's not on yet, and that's so it's not finished. Woven ends, trimmed yarn, held it up, started to cry. Let me show you. Right there where my darning needle is also where I clipped a little too close and cut my yarn. I've tied it onto a longer string bit. So now there's a hole. There's a hole in my sweater. So I tried to find the two ends. I found and tied them, yes, tied a knot to a longer length of yarn so that I would be able to work with it maybe without losing it, the stitches any further. Got my handy crochet hook and tried to fix it. It's just seed stitch, right? Knit, purl, alternating. Shouldn't be hard. I couldn't figure out how to do it. So it's pinned. And after crying and then screaming and castigating myself and raking myself over the coals, shook it out and said, I'll take it to my LYS and see if they can help. Just put it away. Don't worry about it for the moment, Danielle. Well, in shaking it out, I found another spot at the top of my sleeve where I'd trimmed the yarn too close and cut another hole. Yeah. So I've got that one pinned off too. I don't know what I did. I thought I was being careful. Stupid gingers, too sharp for your own good. So all the knitting and seaming and ends weaving in is finished for my Runa cardigan. But now I have 2 holes to fix. So I have 2 holes to fix and a button to sew on, and then it's done. So while I was crying over that spilt milk, those were everything I finished. I do have some other whips in progress, and that's kind of redundant. Whips in progress. And so I moved on trying to clear my mind. And yes, I'm still working on my Christmas socks. Again, this is Jinx Yarns and the Naughty or Nice colorway. I've linked to it, but she's no longer dying, so. These, look at my really cool progress keeper. It's a bee. Are very long. Look at that, they're longer than my forearm. And I have tried them on periodically and done increases for the calf. And I'm kind of at the spot. Look how much yarn I have left. I was just going to go so I could use it all, but they're already really tall because I still have to put in heels. So I don't know if I'll just keep going and make them over the knee highs or stop, put in my heels, and do a pair of shorties with these with contrasting heels, toes, and cuffs. I'm undecided. I really wanted to use it all though because again, she's no longer dying. So precious. So I've done some calf shaping on those and then I put them away. because I cast on something new. This is in my Bee Splat bag by Mrs. Brown's. And this is a pattern written by Crystal Palace Yarns for their mini mochi yarn, which I had 2 different color lot skeins of. They were orphans, but they were such a good deal, right? Exactly. So this is called the Mini Mochi Pharaoh Hat and Mittens, designed by Sandy Rosner for Crystal Palace Yarns. That's what it's gonna look like. There. So I have done color work before in a little bit of intarsia and some mosaic knitting, but I haven't done true Pharaoh. So this was my beginning project for Pharaoh. So I have my 2 skeins of mini mochi. They are just slightly different colorways, but similar tonals. So I'm actually running into the problem that I'm not getting enough contrast at certain points. So I've had to break the yarn and move it to a different spot. So here is my hat. So this is corrugated ribbing. Lovely. And then my Farrell pattern started. And the yarn is doing all the work with the gradient. Loving it. Finding it actually pretty easy. So there's nothing further than a 3-stitch stretch. So I don't have to catch floats or anything. So it's just me getting used to holding 2 yarns. I'm a continental knitter. So I use my left hand to hold my yarn, and I'm a picker. So I found I just use 1 yarn over my forefinger and 1 yarn over my middle finger. And why it looks kind of awkward, I found it works for me. So very excited about this. I am doing it, I use size 3s US for the ribbing, and it went up to 4 for the barrel portion. It is going to be a bit snug. So I'm knitting the medium, and I should have knit the large. So it might not be for me. I don't know. But I'm liking the way it looks, so yay! Go Farrell! So that's exciting, and this is what I've been putting most of my knitting time into. Additionally, goodness grief, sorry as I give you a great shot of my forehead and the top of my head. I did do another row on my Celestarium. So I'm periodically picking that up and doing a little bit of work on it. The last row I finished at Knit Group, and I just can't do any more at Knit Group. It is I need concentration to be able to count and work on it. I am 67% finished now. After like that 1 row was 2%. So yay! Additionally, I have been working on my crocheted shawl for Prayer Shawl Group. Come here. Somewhere is the end. And I can't find my crochet hook. There we go. It's not like knitting, you just have one loop. So somewhere in my bag is my crochet hook, but here is the shawl. So far, I have been striping the lighter green with the dark green. Yay! The project notes are in my Ravelry project page. I am linked to that. But I ran out of the dark green just like 6 stitches from the end of a row. I thought I had another like wound up ball of it in my stash, but I looked for it and couldn't find it. So I used this is leftover from my brioche cowl. See my project notes. So I finished the last 6 stitches of that row with this, and then went on to the light green. I would like to stripe this in with it some more, but, and this is a wool nylon blend, I don't think it's machine washable. It feels like it would felt. So, yeah. And of course I've lost the tag, and they do not have care instructions for it on Ravelry. Yay! So I think it's hand wash only. So I'll just continue with the light green, I guess, until it runs out, and then there will be my prayer shawl. So there is that. I have a new project I want to cast on, because again, I'm at the point on my naughty or nice Christmas socks that I left my pattern out. That they're nearly done, and they're also large enough in the bag that they are getting past the point of easily travelable. So, it's time I knit Mr. High Plains Life another pair of socks, even if he hardly wears the one he has. So I am using Andromeda sock yarn, and she is a dyer local to me here in Colorado Springs, and this is in her smoke colorway. It's a 75-25 blend. I love it because it's a pretty high twist. Look at that twist. So I love it for socks. It holds up really well. And again, this is smoke. So not only is the base color tonal, but then it has these midnight blue and black speckles on it that aren't too stand outy. So I think this will still be conservative enough for my husband. So I just need to ball this up, and then this will be my new travel knitting, because we're taking a weekend trip soon. Very exciting. So this is going to be my travel knitting for that. So that is what I have coming down the pipeline. What else is in my notes? Stocking. So that's pretty much it. Just a new pair of socks. And instead of making them vanilla, I'm planning on doing the syncopation socks. I think they're syncopation. Just doing a lot of bending over today. But if you could see around my chair, I've got just bags, yarn piled. Oh, I take it back. They're not syncopation. They are the simple skip socks. Skip socks? Skype socks? For it's the slip knit, pass slip stitch over, or whatever, you know, that it's the shorthand for that stitch, for that knit stitch. So, and these are by Adrian Koo, and you can't really see very well, But I like them. They just have a very simple texture pattern to them that I think will look good in that yarn and be fun to knit while still relatively mindless and be something, again, conservative enough for my husband. Yay! Where's all the knitting you've been doing, Danielle? You say it's been months. That's because I haven't been doing much knitting. I have been doing some hand quilting. I promised a friend to finish a small wall hanging piece that her mother had started, and then her mother had died, and she's not a quilter, so she asked if one of the quilters on our knit group would be willing to finish it, and I volunteered. I looked at it and I was like, sure, I can match those stitches. Her mother was a very good quilter because once I started, I was like, whoa, okay, her stitches are a little smaller than mine. So I tried to match it as well as I could, while mostly being consistent. So as long as she doesn't look at the back, where my mistakes really stand out, my missized stitches, she'll be good. So I finished that and gave that back to her. And I've also been hand quilting another table runner of mine. So that's what I've been doing in the evenings while my husband and I watch our shows. And I have been down yet another rabbit hole. This kind of falls under acquisitions. I have begun watching Hannah with the Corner of Craft podcast. I found her through Soprano Knits. They are friends, and Hannah used to live in Germany. That's how they met. Then she moved back to England. So I've been watching hers, and she makes gorgeous stitch markers and just beautiful beaded things. She's also great about sharing her knowledge and her time, and she's created several tutorials. So while she is lovely and generous, she's also an evil, evil person because she just like made the rabbit hole wider and easier to fall down. Thanks, Hannah. So I have, oh my goodness, begun beading stitch markers. And it started with little owls. How cute is this? This one they're all size 11, but some are just seed beads and some are delicas. I've since learned round seed beads are not consistent enough. Must use delicas, which are a Japanese brand, Mayuki delicas, glass beads made in Japan. And Hannah made a cute little tutorial on how to make this owl. So I made this owl, and then I couldn't stop, so I made like 10 more. And I gave them out to my knit group members because we're spinners with altitude. Get it? I'm so cheesy. Bring on the puns. So that owl was interesting, but is there another pattern out there? Oh my goodness, yes. Look at that little owl. Look at him. He's a bit smaller, but he's got these little eyebrows. Oh, whoops. There we go. Light. So cute. So then I started, following the breadcrumbs, seeing what other patterns were out there. There's little pandas. Oh my God. There's little sheep. Look, it's Dolores. Yeah, she's sideways there. Little sheep. I made a Hello Kitty for another one of my knit group members because it's Hello Kitty. Sheep. I made penguins. Pandas, penguins, pandas, penguins. And this is another one where seed beads and delicas don't mix well. It's all misshapen. A little lamb. Look at that. Oh my God, it's so cute. A little chicken. I am making more of these because they're too adorable. I'm in the process of making a bronco, like the horse head for the Broncos. And, oh, my hedgehogs. And I made, sorry, these are kind of all like all over. Little bitty hedgehog. Look at him. There we go. Little bitty hedgehog. And the mama hedgehog. Oh my God, isn't it cute? Some stitch markers. Lovely things. And one of my favorites, minions. Look at these. I made my own little army of minions. They're adorable. And I put little jump rings on them with leatherback earrings so they can be progress keepers. Some of them, some of the smaller ones, I made with just the loops of wire or jump rings, so they're stitch markers, but most of these are progress keepers, the leatherback earrings on them. I've been having such a blast. I have also been spending all my yarn budget on beads. So, this is part of off topic, but let's jump right into it. How much of an inventory would you consider should be the minimum before opening an Etsy shop? I have given consideration to an Etsy shop because I'm having a blast beading these cute little things. But the delicate beads are a little more expensive than the regular seed beads. The jewelry findings, everything adds up. Like I said, I've spent my yarn budget on beads. I would love for this to pay for itself so I can keep buying yarn. So, do any of you makers out there have any advice? Recommendations? I have spoken briefly with my local yarn store owner, and it was a very positive conversation, but again, it was very brief and there's nothing concrete, and I don't want to jinx it. So, how difficult have any of you makers out there found it to have an Etsy shop, if you have one? I don't really want to deal with the whole shipping and sales tax. I am worried about making it more complicated than it is and it not being fun anymore. So, who knows? I just love for some ideas to be thrown out there. So if you want to add to the comments or go to our Ravelry group and post in the thread, I would really appreciate it. And in the meantime, I'm looking for a pattern for a squirrel. Because, we all start on one project and then we see a new pattern and we're like, oh, squirrel! Must knit it. Yeah, I'm cheesy. Cheesy, I never promised anything else. So, thanks Hannah of Corner of Craft for addicting me to beading stitch markers. For spinning, I do have some news. I've registered for the twist workshop with Maggie Casey at the Estes Park Wool Market coming up in June. It's the first weekend in June. June 7th is my workshop. So, very excited. Yes, it's fairly local to me, like 3 hours, and I've never been. Because by June, it normally ends up being motorcycle riding weather, so that's what I've done in the past. And Estes is expensive, not the workshops themselves. Those are actually very reasonably priced, but hotel, lodging, food, stuff there because it's entrance to Rocky Mountain National Park and, summer in the Rockies. So, this is my first year I'll be going. I'm very excited. I'm very excited to be taking a class by Maggie Casey. She is Colorado teacher, and I've never taken a class from her, so now's my opportunity. I'm very excited about it. And I've got my hotel booked, my workshop booked, my walking shoes on. Gonna make a list of things I am looking for projects I'd like to make. I am not going to buy a fleece. Let me put that out there right now. No fleeces, I think. As far as under the needle, I have been doing some quilting lately. I told you about the hand quilting I've been doing. Additionally, I attended a quilt workshop offered through our local quilt guild, the Colorado Springs Quilt Guild, and it was taught by Beth Lundquist, called the Lily Pad Quilt Workshop. And when I'm not sure if I'm going to like a pattern or how things are going to go together, a great option to do is holiday fabrics. Most quilters have a crap load of Christmas prints. I do. I have a lot of disparate ones that I bought on sale that don't necessarily go together. So this quilt was just supposed to be able to take a light, medium, dark, and then a pop and throw it together in a block, make a beautiful quilt. So I pulled together some Christmas fabrics, started cutting, and went to the workshop, had a blast, put together several blocks, a lot of blocks. I got a lot done, enough to throw up on the wall and play around with the pattern a bit to see how things would work. So that was a lot of fun. She gives like 32 different options of ways to put the quilt together just by rotating the different blocks. Awesome. So I've finished piecing all my blocks. I started out with a lap size project and ended up with a queen. The blocks, I just kept putting blocks together. They were so fun. So, queen size quilt later, I threw it up on my design wall so that I could lay out the pattern and try several different options. I think I've got it the way I want, and now I just need to sew the rows together. So I'm going to pan you over, hopefully not make you sick, to show you the quilt on my design wall. And it doesn't all fit on my design wall, so there's like 2 rows hanging out on the bottom, but they're pinned together and I know how they'll look. So while I pan you over that way, I will also show you my completed project of organizing my fabric. Look at that. Oh, you're all getting dizzy, I know. So sorry. Yay! So there is my design wall. So that is the quilt from the workshop. So that's my lily pad quilt ready for the rows to be sewn together. I finished organizing my fabrics by type and color. So that part of my craft room is organized, and now the rest is a mess. I know. I have nothing for in the garden or in the bee yard, although I do need to check my bees. They probably need some feeding, and if that's all they need, I really need to put it on before they starve. So that's on me. Off topic, I already asked for your advice regarding an Etsy shop or how you other makers try and get your products out there. I mentioned Hannah with the Corner of Craft podcast. She's also the dyer behind Chromatic Yarns, which is really awesome, and it's kind of based on D&D gaming themes and gorgeous colors and great inspiration and yarns. So I highly recommend checking her out. That's all I had today. So wish me luck on fixing the holes in my cardigans. Oh, you can find me as Danny Girl Co. on Ravelry and Instagram. And show notes can be found at www.myhighplainslife.blogspot.com. Thanks and have a good day. Bye.